The polished chrome of Sergeant Major Thomas Callahan's prosthetic leg gleamed subtly under the harsh fluorescent lights of Gadget Sphere, a sprawling electronics emporium. His real leg, the left one, ached with a familiar phantom pain, a constant companion since the IED in Kandahar. On the lapel of his worn but neat civilian jacket, a carefully arranged bar of metals caught the light. A silver star, 3 bronze stars with V devices, and the Purple Heart, its vibrant ribbon a stark testament to his sacrifice. He wasn't wearing them for show. It was Veterans Day, and for him, it was a quiet way to honor his fallen comrades and the service they all shared. Callahan, a man whose quiet demeanor belied a core of unyielding steel forged in decades of service, was looking for a specific e-reader for his granddaughter's birthday. He approached a young clerk lounging behind a brightly lit counter, idly scrolling through his phone. The name tag read Chad. "Excuse me, son," Callahan began, his voice raspy from disuse and old injuries. "I'm looking for the Kindle Scribe, the 64-gigabyte model." Chad looked up, his expression a cocktail of boredom and impatience. His eyes flicked dismissively over Callahan, lingering for a moment on the metals with a smirk. "Aisle 7, Gramps. If we even still carry stone tablets like that." Callahan stiffened slightly, but kept his composure. "Thank you." He found the e-reader, but it was the last one, the box slightly dented. He brought it back to Chad's counter. As Chad scanned the item, his gaze returned to Callahan's medals, this time with open disdain. Were those bowling trophies? Participation awards from some ancient war nobody remembers? He let out a short, derisive laugh. "Seriously, what did you do? Polish enough boots to get a chest full of shiny tin?" The air in Callahan's lungs seemed to freeze. Years of discipline, of leading men under fire, of enduring pain, had taught him control. But this casual, ignorant cruelty struck a raw nerve. The metals weren't tin. They were blood, sacrifice, lost friends, and shattered lives. "These," Callahan said, his voice dangerously low, "represent service to this country. They represent men and women who gave more than you can possibly comprehend." Chad rolled his eyes, unimpressed. "Oh, here we go. The whole thank me for my service shtick. Look, old man, your generation's idea of heroism is probably just following orders. Nowadays, we value like actual innovation, not just marching in line." He tapped the e-reader box. "This is innovation. Your medals? Relics." A flush crept up Callahan's neck. Other customers were starting to look. A woman nearby gasped softly. Callahan placed his hands flat on the counter. "I don't expect you to understand the cost of freedom, son, but I do expect a modicum of respect, not for me, but for what these symbols stand for." "Respect is earned, buddy," Chad sneered, pushing the e-reader carelessly towards Callahan. "And frankly, parading those things around like you're special is just kind of sad. That'll be $389.99, unless you get a hero discount for your ancient history." He snickered again, clearly pleased with his own wit. Callahan felt a cold rage, an emotion he hadn't experienced with such intensity since his active duty days. But he also felt a profound weariness. He wasn't going to argue with this child. He pulled out his wallet, his hand trembling slightly, not from age, but from suppressed fury. He paid, took his purchase, and turned to leave, the clerk's mocking laughter echoing faintly behind him. The walk to the exit felt miles long, each step a fresh wave of humiliation and anger. He paused near the entrance, leaning heavily on his cane, trying to compose himself. It had been perhaps 6 or 7 minutes since the initial insult. Unseen by Chad, and initially by Callahan, another customer had entered the store a few minutes prior. He was a tall, impeccably dressed man in his late 50s, with a commanding presence that seemed to suck the air out of his immediate vicinity. He wore a discreet lapel pin that only a trained eye would recognize. He had been browsing noise-canceling headphones when the raised voices, or rather, Chad's distinctively sneering tone, had caught his attention. He'd observed the tail end of the exchange, his expression hardening with each disrespectful word uttered by the clerk. This was General Marcus Thorne, commander of U.S. Strategic Command, a four-star general who happened to be in town visiting family and had decided to pick up a new tablet for his wife. He recognized the metal bar on Callahan's jacket instantly. He knew what each one signified. He also recognized the quiet dignity of a career soldier trying to maintain composure in the face of blatant disrespect. As Callahan paused near the door, General Thorne strode purposefully towards Chad's counter. Chad, still smirking from his perceived victory, barely looked up. "Help you?" he asked, with the same bored indifference. "Yes, you can," General Thorne said, his voice calm, but carrying an undeniable weight of authority that made Chad finally look up, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "I'd like to speak to your manager. Immediately." She's busy," Chad said, attempting to regain his swagger. "Something I can help you with?" "I believe you've already helped enough for one day," Thorne said, his eyes like ice. "Get your manager. Now." The now was not a request. Chad, suddenly less confident, stammered, "Okay, sure." He fumbled for his internal phone. While Chad was making the call, General Thorne turned and walked over to Callahan, who was still visibly shaken. "Sergeant Major?" Thorne asked, his voice now warm and respectful. Callahan, startled, looked up. He didn't immediately recognize Thorne in civilian attire, but the man's bearing was unmistakable. "Sir, General Marcus Thorne." He introduced himself, extending a hand. "I witnessed that disgraceful exchange. I am appalled, Sergeant Major. Absolutely appalled." Callahan, momentarily speechless, shook the general's hand. "Callahan, sir. Thomas Callahan. And thank you, General. It's unsettling." "Unsettling is an understatement, Sergeant Major," Thorne said, his gaze firm. "It's an outrage." Just then, a harried-looking woman in a Gadget Sphere manager vest approached. "I'm Ms. Albright, the store manager." "Is there a problem?" she asked, her eyes flicking between the distinguished older gentleman and the visibly upset disabled veteran. Chad piped up from behind the counter. "This guy," he gestured to Thorne, "is complaining because I told the truth to that other old guy about his medals." Ms. Albright looked confused, then annoyed. "What exactly is the issue here?" General Thorne stepped forward, his full height seeming to diminish the manager. "The issue, Ms. Albright, is that your employee, Chad," he glanced at the name tag with distaste, "has just grossly insulted and disrespected a decorated combat veteran, a Sergeant Major of the United States Army, ridiculing his medals of valor, including a Silver Star and Purple Heart." Ms. Albright's eyes widened slightly. She looked at Callahan's medals, then back at Chad, who was now looking decidedly nervous. "Chad, is this true?" "I was just joking around," Chad mumbled, avoiding eye contact. He was being sensitive. "Joking?" Thorne's voice rose, a parade ground command voice that made several customers jump. "You call mocking a man's sacrifice, a man who bears the physical scars of his service to this nation, joking? You call demeaning symbols of bravery and loss tin? I call it disgusting, ignorant, and wholly unacceptable." The store had gone quiet. All eyes were on the unfolding drama. It was now about 9 minutes since Callahan had first been mocked. "Sir, I apologize for my employee's behavior," Ms. Albright began, trying to de-escalate. "Chad, apologize to this gentleman immediately." Chad mumbled a reluctant, "Sorry." "Not good enough," Thorne stated flatly. He pulled out his phone. "Ms. Albright, this store, Gadget Sphere, operates in a community with a significant military and veteran population. Fort Powell is less than 20 miles away. I am General Marcus Thorne, United States Army. What happened here today is not just an HR issue for you. It's about to become a significant public relations crisis for your entire company." Ms. Albright paled. "General, I assure you, we value our veterans. Your employees' actions suggest otherwise." Thorne cut in sharply. He was already dialing. "I'm now contacting the Public Affairs Office at Fort Powell. I will also be contacting the VFW, the American Legion, and every veterans organization in a 50-mile radius to inform them of how Gadget Sphere treats disabled veterans. I will personally advise every service member under my influence, and through them, their families, to take their business elsewhere. I imagine the local news outlets, might also be interested in a story about a store that mocks war heroes. Ms. Albright looked horrified. The potential fallout was dawning on her. Lost revenue, protests, a brand name tarnished beyond repair. "General, please," she pleaded. "There's no need for that. We can handle this internally. Chad will be disciplined. Severely." Thorne looked at Chad, who was now trembling. Discipline isn't enough. This isn't a lapse in judgment. It's a profound lack of character and respect that is clearly tolerated here. He spoke into his phone. "Yes, connect me to Colonel Davies, Public Affairs. General Thorne calling." This was it. The 10-minute mark had passed. Ms. Albright wrung her hands. "General, what do you want? Please tell me." Thorne held up a hand to pause his call. He looked at Callahan, then back at the manager. "Firstly, Sergeant Major Callahan deserves a profound and sincere apology from you and from your head office when I contact them, which I still intend to do. Secondly, this employee," he jerked his head towards Chad, "is to be terminated. Immediately. Not suspended, not retrained, terminated. His disrespect is a cancer." Chad looked like he was about to faint. "You can't do that. It's not fair." "Fair," Thorne thundered, his voice now echoing through the entire store. "Fair is men like Sergeant Major Callahan putting their lives on the line, so ingrates like you can enjoy the freedom to insult them. Fair is recognizing sacrifice, not spitting on it." Ms. Albright nodded frantically. "Yes, General. Absolutely. Chad, you're fired. Clear out your locker. Now." She turned to Callahan, her face a mask of contrition. "Sergeant Major Callahan, on behalf of Gadget Sphere, I am so deeply, truly sorry. There is no excuse for what happened. Your purchase is, of course, on the house. Please allow us to refund you." Callahan, who had watched this whirlwind unfold with a mixture of shock and vindication, simply nodded. The anger was receding, replaced by a weary gratitude. Thorne was not finished. "Ms. Albright, this store will close for the remainder of the day. You will use that time to conduct immediate, mandatory sensitivity and respect training for all your remaining staff, focusing specifically on veterans and individuals with disabilities. I expect a written confirmation from your corporate office by tomorrow morning that this has been done, along with a public statement of apology. If I don't receive it, or if I hear of any further incidents of this nature, I will ensure Gadget Sphere becomes a case study in how not to treat American heroes." Ms. Albright, thoroughly cowed, nodded. "Yes, General. We'll close immediately. I'll start making the arrangements." She looked genuinely chastened. The other customers, who had been watching in stunned silence, began to applaud softly. General Thorne turned back to Callahan. "Sergeant Major, I apologize that your day was ruined by such ignorance. Let me escort you out." As they walked towards the exit, past a now frantic Ms. Albright, starting to usher customers out in a pale, defeated Chad being led towards a back room, Thorne put a hand on Callahan's shoulder. "No soldier, active or retired, should ever endure that, Tom. Never." "Thank you, General," Callahan said, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't have to do all that." Thorne smiled, a rare but warm expression. "The insignia on my shoulder and the stars on yours, Sergeant Major, mean we look out for our own. Always. Now, how about I buy you a cup of coffee? I'd like to hear about the action that earned you that silver star." Callahan managed a small smile. The ache in his leg seemed a little less pronounced, the weight of the world a little lighter. Justice, he thought, sometimes arrived in the most unexpected and powerful forms. As they stepped out into the daylight, the doors of Gadget Sphere were already being locked behind them. The closed sign hastily hung in the window. The swift, decisive action of a four-star general had ensured that, at least for one day, in one store, respect had been unequivocally restored. And for Chad, his brief, ill-advised career in customer service was most definitely over.